Thanks, Grandpa, for letting me interview you about Switzerland. I'm going to be asking you questions, but please feel free to add any information that you'd like. The purpose of this interview is to find out why your family decided to immigrate to Southern California.
Because my dad saw an opportunity to come here and make money to be able to take back to Switzerland and start a landscaping business. Because the economy was not as productive as it was here at that time in the early 50s.
All right. Describe where you were born.
In Zurich, on the edge of the lake, in the old part of Zurich that dates back 1,000 years.
How old were you when you came to America?
4 years old.
Can you please tell about when your family returned to Switzerland?
Yes, we went back when I was 9 years old after my dad had saved up money to what he thought would start a nice landscaping business in Switzerland. So when he got back to Switzerland, the economy and the conditions had changed. So his plan was not working. He did try it, and it didn't work out the way he thought. So we decided, or he decided, after 1 year in Switzerland to return to America and make a living here.
What was your favorite part about your childhood?
In Switzerland or here?
Switzerland.
Oh, in Switzerland. Just remembering the beauty of the country, the chocolate. They have really good chocolate over there. The dairy products in general are just excellent. So food was a big item over there. I mean, it still is, of course. And just the beauty of the country.
What was school like?
More strict than here. You're very disciplined and well, a little bit harder compared to school here. When I graduated 3rd grade here and we went back, I had to take 3rd grade over there again. I went straight into their 3rd grade class and did the best I could to fit in with the language and everything, but I managed to get through.
What was school like?
For me, it was kind of interesting because I was the boy from America. So I was a little different, and they asked me a lot of questions, and I remember having a jacket with a giant zipper on it from here, and they just thought that was the coolest thing, so they were playing with that all the time. And then they had a game where they were throwing a tennis ball around, and I was really good at that, and so I excelled in sports over there, and that made me kind of popular among them, other than just being from America. That was a big deal.
Can you describe the cultural differences in Switzerland, like housing, jobs, customs, free time activities?
The work ethic there is much more disciplined than it is here. The work is has a high priority, or making a living is a high priority over there, more so than it is here. In this country, pleasure is mixed in more than the work is. Over there, it's pretty much all work and being productive and efficient and clean. Not that we're not that here, but it's not as high a priority here as it is there.
How old were you when you spent your years in Switzerland?
1 year from the age of 9 until I was 10.
How'd you feel about returning to the United States after being in Switzerland?
Well, first, when my dad said, "Okay, kids," when we were living here, he said, "Okay, kids, we're moving back to Switzerland." We all didn't want to because we had our friends here in school and everything. We just didn't want to go, so we kind of put up a fight. But then once we got going and we were there, we liked it. So and we adjusted and fit in and made a whole new batch of friends and everything. So then when Dad said after 1 year, he said he would give it a 1 year trial period. and make a decision, a permanent decision after that. So when he decided that we were all coming back to America, we went through the whole thing all over again, where we said, we don't want to go, we don't want to go. We have all our friends in school here and everything. So we didn't want to go, first we didn't want to go over there, and then we didn't want to come back here. So that was kind of funny.
Describe something you experienced on your journey back to Southern California.
We rode the train from Switzerland to France on the train. Then we got on board the Queen Mary, and we sailed across the North Atlantic on the Queen Mary. And on the Queen Mary, there were hardly any kids, and it was real stormy. And so there was nothing for kids to do. They didn't have playrooms and things like you would expect. So I made up my own game, and I took a large French coin and rolled it around on the deck, and the wind would blow it, and I would chase it around. And one day, my coin flew over to this guy in a deck chair, who was all bundled up and didn't look very happy. But it turned out that it was the man who played the lion in The Wizard of Oz. So I said, "Hey, hi, Mr. Lion." And he said, "Get out of here, kid." Because he was seasick, and that's why he was up on deck. He didn't want to talk to me. So I thought that kind of stands out in my mind, because I got to meet the lion, and he was grumpy. So anyway, and then we got to New York, then got on a TWA Constellation, which was a big deal in those days, and flew to Los Angeles Airport.
Why did your Grandpa Irwin and Grandma Louise choose Southern California?
Because my dad's brother lived here, and in those days, when you wanted to come to this country, you had to have a sponsor, you had to have a job, you had to have a place to live. And so my dad's brother provided all that for us, and then my dad had to get on a waiting list. And I guess he was on the waiting list for almost 2 years, and then finally was able to come and started working right away.
What part of Southern California did you live in when you first immigrated here?
North Long Beach.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad started off as sort of in the landscaping business, which includes masonry work, brick walkways, concrete walkways, and block walls and things like that. So he learned the masonry business as being a landscaper, as a landscaper helper. He didn't own the business, he was just helping. And then when we came back the second time, and he decided we were going to make a living here and live here, then he became a masonry contractor, and did that until he retired when he was about 75.
What do you think were the biggest challenges for Grandma Louise and Grandpa Irwin when they first moved to Switzerland to Southern California?
The language. My mom had a real hard time with the language. Still has a heavy accent, and it kind of, just not being familiar with the American traditions and cultural differences there. My dad fit in much faster because he went out into the world, working. My mom stayed home with us kids, and didn't get a lot of exposure to a lot of people, so it was a little hard on her to, make friends and things like that. But they adjusted. They did a wonderful job of, adjusting to the American way of life, which they love.
In your opinion, what is the biggest difference between Southern California and Switzerland?
The people. We're so diverse here that we have so many different types of people here, but over there it's like everybody seems like your brother or sister, you're all so much alike. But over here it's just, in Southern California, very diverse. We have all nationalities and types of people, so that's a big difference right there. But America's wonderful in the sense that we're so prosperous over here. They are there too, but over in Switzerland we don't have all the luxury items that we have here, big cars and homes and drive-in theaters that we used to have in those days, and those types of things we didn't have over there.
Do you think Grandma Louise and Grandpa Irwin miss anything about Switzerland?
I don't think so. I've heard them say, we don't want to go back because we love America too much. So, one funny thing though too was, when we went back to Switzerland, apparently in those days, people from America were all considered to be millionaires, very rich people, which we weren't. We weren't rich. So, but every time my mom and dad would go out with friends, they would automatically expect my parents to pick up the tab. They wouldn't even ask. They would just walk away from, say, a table and expect my mom and dad to pay the bill. And Dad was kind of going, oh, wait a minute, you know, I don't have any more money than you guys. But they always thought that people from America had more money than they did.
How do you think immigrating to America changed who you are today?
Well, I'm not wearing lederhosen, and I don't know if I'm that different. I think I would be this way if I lived in Switzerland too, or however way that is, but I don't think I think my personality would probably be the same, just because of my parents, my family, and like that. So it's just the way I grew up. I know that I'm sure Southern California affected the way I grew up, but I think from a personality standpoint, I think I'd probably be quite the same.
Grandpa Irwin and Grandma Louise said they didn't want to move back to Switzerland. Would you ever want to move back to Switzerland?
Yes, I would love it there. To live in a 300-year-old house made of stone, to live in those green alpine pastures with those beautiful cows walking around, and having cheese and milk and yogurt and all those wonderful dairy products would be wonderful. The Alps are so beautiful.
All right. Thank you, Grandpa.
You're welcome.